The moment the lights dimmed, something electric moved through the air, the kind of feeling that tells you a night will be remembered long after it ends. Before a single note was sung, before a single spotlight found its mark, the audience leaned forward, hearts ready. If you've ever believed that music can bring back memories, heal wounds, and make strangers feel like family, stay with this story until the end, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this deserve to be shared. Jerome Evardome stood behind the stage curtain, eyes closed, breathing slowly. His black suit hugged his frame perfectly, his hair styled in a way that echoed a legend, yet his thoughts were far from glamorous. Growing up, Jerome was just a quiet boy who found comfort in old records. While other kids played outside, he sat beside a worn-out radio, listening to Elvis Presley's voice fill their small living room. His father used to say, "This music has a soul," but his father was gone now, and tonight, Jerome felt that absence more than ever. Every time he sang Elvis, it felt like a conversation with the past, like he was keeping a promise made long ago. Across the hallway, Rouelle Cariño adjusted his tie, hands slightly shaking. Unlike Jerome, Rouelle was known for his gentle smile and calm presence, but inside, he carried years of doubt. People often told him he sounded like Matt Monro, that his voice had that smooth, emotional warmth. At first, he took it as a compliment, then as a burden. "Why not be yourself?" critics asked. But they didn't know that Matt Monro's songs were the reason Rouelle survived his darkest days. When life felt heavy, when dreams felt impossible, those melodies reminded him that tenderness was not weakness. This concert wasn't just a performance, it was a risk. Calling themselves the clones of Elvis Presley and Matt Monro invited both admiration and harsh judgment. Some people came out of curiosity, others with skepticism, ready to compare every move, every note. Backstage, Jerome and Rouelle shared a quiet look, no words needed. They both knew the weight of what they were about to do. They weren't here to imitate, they were here to honor. As the curtain rose, the first spotlight hit Jerome. The band struck the opening chords, and when he sang the first line, the room changed. It wasn't just an Elvis song, it was confidence fighting fear, passion battling doubt. Some audience members smiled instantly, others felt goosebumps rise on their arms. Jerome moved with the familiar swagger, but his eyes told a deeper story, one of a man proving something to himself more than anyone else. Then came Rouelle's turn. The lights softened, the music slowed, and his voice flowed like a gentle wave. People stopped whispering. Phones lowered. In that moment, time seemed to pause. His voice carried longing, love, and vulnerability. An elderly woman in the front row wiped tears from her eyes, remembering dances from her youth. A young couple held hands tighter, feeling emotions they didn't expect. Halfway through the concert, something unexpected happened. The sound system briefly failed, the music cutting out. A murmur spread through the crowd. Panic flashed across the crew's faces. This was the nightmare scenario. Jerome and Rouelle exchanged a glance again, but this time, Jerome stepped forward and sang without music. His raw voice filled the hall, unfiltered and powerful. Rouelle joined him, harmonizing softly. The audience began clapping in rhythm, turning a mistake into magic. What could have ended the night instead became its most unforgettable moment. When the music returned, the energy doubled. The crowd wasn't just watching anymore, they were part of the performance. Cheers grew louder, applause longer. In the final song, Jerome and Rouelle stood side by side, two voices from different worlds united by the same love for music. They weren't clones anymore. They were storytellers. As the last note faded, the audience rose to their feet. The applause wasn't just for a great show, it was for courage, for authenticity, for reminding everyone that honoring the past doesn't mean losing yourself. Backstage, Jerome felt tears he didn't try to hide. Rouelle laughed softly, relief washing over him. They had faced their fears and found acceptance, not just from the crowd, but from themselves. This concert wasn't about Elvis Presley or Matt Monro alone. It was about the power of influence, about how legends live on through ordinary people brave enough to carry their light forward. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of a song that once saved you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more stories like this to life. As the hall emptied and the lights dimmed for the final time, one truth remained clear: music never dies, and neither do dreams that are sung from the heart. Before anyone realized the show had begun, a single note floated through the darkness, soft, lonely, and trembling, like a memory searching for a heart to land in. People stopped talking. Phones paused mid-air. In that instant, everyone felt it. This was not just a concert, this was a moment. If you've ever loved a song so deeply it felt like it understood you, stay with this story until the very end, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because music like this deserves to travel far beyond one night. Jerome Evardome never planned to become known as the clone of Elvis Presley. As a child, he sang quietly, almost secretly, afraid that his voice would invite laughter instead of applause. In his small room, posters of Elvis hung beside cracked mirrors, not as symbols of fame, but as reminders of courage. Elvis represented freedom to Jerome, the courage to stand tall even when the world doubts you. But courage is easier to admire than to live. Tonight, standing backstage, Jerome felt the familiar fear tighten in his chest. What if they didn't hear his heart? What if all they heard was comparison? Rouelle Cariño's journey was different but carried the same weight. His voice was naturally smooth, filled with emotion even when he spoke. Friends urged him to sing, but Rouelle hesitated for years. Life had taught him to be careful, to stay small. When he first sang a Matt Monro song on a modest stage, silence followed, not the awkward kind, but the stunned kind. That silence changed his life. Still, being called a clone felt like standing in someone else's shadow forever. Tonight was his chance to prove that shadows can sing too. The concert hall buzzed with anticipation. Some came expecting nostalgia. Others came ready to judge. A few came only to eat, chat, and pastime. None of them knew they were about to witness two lives unfolding through music. When Jerome stepped into the spotlight, dressed in classic black, the resemblance drew gasps. But when he sang, the resemblance faded into something deeper. His voice wasn't copying, it was confessing. Every lyric carried years of rejection, hope, and persistence. As the rhythm picked up, Jerome moved with confidence born not from perfection, but from acceptance. He wasn't trying to be Elvis anymore, he was letting Elvis guide him. The audience felt it. They clapped, not because they recognized the song, but because they recognized the emotion. Then the stage dimmed again, and Rouelle walked forward. His presence was calm, almost fragile, yet strong in its honesty. The first words he sang seemed to wrap around the room like warm light. His voice carried stories of love lost and found, of nights spent believing tomorrow would be kinder. People who had come only to watch found themselves listening. People who had come only to eat stopped chewing, hearts suddenly heavier. Midway through the concert, doubt returned. A group in the back whispered, unimpressed. Rouelle noticed. His confidence wavered, his voice almost cracked. In that moment, Jerome stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. It was a small gesture, unseen by most, but it changed everything. Rouelle closed his eyes and sang as if it were the last time anyone would hear him. The whispering stopped. Applause followed. The greatest challenge came near the end. The final duet approached, a song neither legend had ever sung together. It was risky, unfamiliar. The band hesitated. The crowd waited. Jerome and Rouelle exchanged a look that said everything, this is why we're here. When they sang together, their voices didn't compete, they embraced. Power met tenderness. Past met present. The hall filled with something rare, unity. By the final note, many were standing. Some cried openly. Others smiled without knowing why. Jerome felt lighter than he ever had. Rouelle felt free. In that moment, they understood that being inspired by legends didn't make them copies, it made them carriers of something timeless. As the applause thundered, the message became clear. Dreams don't ask permission. They don't require perfect beginnings. They only ask for honesty and courage. If this story touched you, if it reminded you why music matters, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these voices heard. When the lights finally went out and the hall emptied, the echoes remained, not just of songs, but of two souls who proved that honoring greatness starts with believing in yourself. The first sound wasn't applause, it wasn't music, it was silence so deep it made people hold their breath. In that silence, hearts leaned forward without realizing why. Something important was about to happen. If you've ever felt goosebumps before a song even begins, this story is for you, so stay till the very end, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because moments like this deserve to be remembered. Jerome Evardome stood alone behind the curtain, fingertips cold, mind loud. The name Elvis Presley followed him everywhere, sometimes like a blessing, sometimes like a shadow too heavy to escape. People never asked who Jerome was first, they asked how close he sounded, how close he looked, how close he could get to a legend. What they never saw were the years of practice in silence, the nights he sang into a pillow so neighbors wouldn't complain, the moments he almost quit because being compared felt lonelier than being ignored. Rouelle Cariño sat nearby, eyes fixed on the floor, humming softly. His voice had always been his truth, but also his fear. Matt Monro's songs had carried him through heartbreaks, through times when life felt paused and dreams felt delayed. When people told him he sounded just like Matt Monro, he smiled, but inside he wondered if the world would ever hear Rouelle. Tonight mattered more than any night before, not because of the crowd, but because he needed to believe in himself. The venue slowly filled with people, some excited, some curious, some distracted by food and conversation. Few expected more than nostalgia. Few knew they were about to witness two journeys colliding on one stage. When the lights finally dimmed and the band began to play, Jerome stepped into the spotlight. The resemblance stunned the room, but it was his voice that truly captured them. It wasn't perfect, and that's what made it powerful. Every note carried hunger, history, and hope. As Jerome sang, he remembered his father's old records, his mother's quiet encouragement, the friends who laughed, the strangers who doubted. He sang for all of it. The crowd responded, not just with applause, but with attention, the kind every artist craves. Phones lowered. Faces softened. Music was doing what it always does when it's real. Then Rouelle walked forward, gentle and composed, as if he carried the weight of the night with grace. His voice entered like a confession. Smooth, emotional, honest. The room shifted. Conversations stopped. Even the clinking of plates faded. People weren't just listening, they were remembering lost loves, old dances, promises once made. But the night wasn't flawless. Halfway through, a mistake, timing off, a note missed, a moment of doubt. Jerome felt it immediately. Rouelle felt his confidence slip. For a second, fear threatened to undo everything. Then Jerome turned toward Rouelle and smiled, not as Elvis, not as a performer, but as a friend. Rouelle took a breath and sang again, stronger, truer. The audience felt the struggle and respected the courage. The final performance brought them together. Two voices, two paths, one purpose. They weren't clones anymore. They were proof that legends don't fade, they evolve. Their duet filled the hall with warmth and strength, and when the last note ended, there was a heartbeat of silence before the room erupted. People stood. Some wiped tears. Some cheered. Everyone felt something. Backstage, Jerome finally exhaled. For the first time, he didn't feel trapped by comparison. Rouelle laughed softly, a sound of relief, of release. They had faced fear and answered it with honesty. That was the real victory. This concert wasn't about copying icons. It was about honoring them by being brave enough to stand on your own voice. If this story inspired you, if it reminded you why music still matters, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. As the lights went out and the echoes faded, one truth remained clear: dreams don't belong to legends alone. They belong to anyone willing to step into the light and sing anyway. The room was loud just moments ago, filled with chatter, clinking plates, and casual laughter, but then the lights dimmed, and everything stopped. Not slowly. Instantly. As if the air itself was waiting. In that pause, before a single note was sung, something powerful settled into the hearts of everyone present. This wasn't going to be an ordinary concert. If you've ever felt music touch you before it even begins, stay with this story until the end, and remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because stories born from the heart deserve to reach the world. Jerome Evardome stood at the edge of the stage, half in shadow, half in light. For years, people had told him he was the closest thing to Elvis Presley they had ever seen. The hair, the posture, the voice, it all came naturally. But what no one ever saw was the pressure that came with that comparison. Jerome didn't wake up dreaming of imitation. He woke up dreaming of connection. As a boy, Elvis records played endlessly in his home, not as entertainment, but as comfort. When life felt uncertain, those songs gave him strength. Yet somewhere along the way, admiration turned into expectation, and expectation turned into fear. Across the stage, Rouelle Cariño took a deep breath, his fingers gently tapping to a rhythm only he could hear. His journey was quieter, softer, but no less heavy. His voice carried emotion effortlessly, the kind that made people stop and feel. Being compared to Matt Monro was both an honor and a question that never left him. Would the world accept his voice for what it was, or only for who it reminded them of? Rouelle had spent years wrestling with that doubt, singing in small spaces, convincing himself that being heard at all was enough. The audience that night was a mix of intentions. Some came to relive memories. Some came out of curiosity. Some barely knew what they were about to witness. But when Jerome stepped forward and the band struck the first chord, everything changed. His voice didn't try to impress, it told a story. A story of perseverance, of standing tall even when comparison tries to shrink you. The audience felt it immediately. Applause came not from recognition, but from respect. As Jerome moved across the stage, confidence grew, not the borrowed kind, but the earned kind. Each lyric peeled back a layer of his journey. He wasn't chasing Elvis anymore. He was walking alongside him, guided, not trapped. Then Rouelle's turn arrived. The lights softened, and so did the room. His voice entered gently, almost like a whisper, then rose with emotion that wrapped itself around every listener. People stopped eating. Conversations disappeared. Memories surfaced. His singing didn't demand attention, it invited it. And the audience accepted without hesitation. But every meaningful journey includes a test. Midway through the performance, the energy shifted. A small technical issue. A missed cue. A brief, dangerous silence. Doubt crept in fast. Jerome felt it. Rouelle felt it more. For a second, the fear of failure loomed large enough to steal the night. Then something simple happened. Jerome stepped closer. No words. Just presence. Rouelle steadied himself and sang again, not louder, but truer. The crowd responded with applause that felt like encouragement, not judgment. As the concert reached its final moments, Jerome and Rouelle stood side by side. Two different voices. Two different paths. One shared purpose. Their final song wasn't about imitation or tribute, it was about legacy. About how music survives through those brave enough to carry it forward. Their voices blended, not competing, not copying, but complementing each other. Strength met softness. Fire met calm. The room filled with emotion too deep for words. When the last note faded, there was silence again, but this time, it was followed by thunderous applause. People stood. Some cried. Some smiled in disbelief. Jerome felt something lift from his chest that he hadn't realized he was carrying. Rouelle felt peace, the kind that comes when doubt finally loosens its grip. Backstage, there were no grand speeches. Just quiet understanding. They hadn't proven themselves to the world, they had proven something to themselves. That honoring legends doesn't mean losing your own voice. That comparison fades when authenticity steps forward. This night wasn't just a concert. It was a reminder that dreams don't require permission, and inspiration doesn't erase identity. If this story touched you, if it reminded you why music still matters, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this continue to be told. As the lights went out and the echoes slowly disappeared, one message remained strong and clear: legends inspire, but courage makes history.